Did you ever had that eerie feeling that someone or something was watching you? You're not alone. Before we uncover the terrifying truth, like this video and comment your location, let's step into the shadows together. The acceptance letter from Eastern Michigan University arrived on a rainy April morning. I remember standing in my parents' kitchen, heart pounding, as I read the housing assignment, room 317, Thompson Hall. But it was the second piece of information that made my stomach twist. Roommate assigned, Sarah Matthews. I'd grown up as an only child, with my own space, my own routines, my own everything. The thought of sharing a room with a stranger felt like an invasion of privacy. I spent the summer obsessing over horror stories about terrible roommates, thieves, partiers, slobs. I joined every college Facebook group I could find, desperately hoping to learn something about this Sarah Matthews, but she had no social media presence, not even a LinkedIn profile. Move-in day was chaos. Parents crying, freshmen lugging mini fridges up narrow staircases, RAs trying to maintain some semblance of order. I arrived early, hoping to set up my side of the room before my roommate appeared. Thompson Hall was an older building, all red brick and ivy, with windows that stuck when you tried to open them, and radiators that clanked like someone was hitting them with a hammer. Sarah arrived exactly at her designated check-in time. Not a minute early, not a minute late. She walked in alone. No parents, no boxes, just two perfectly packed suitcases and a laptop bag. Everything about her seemed precisely calculated, from her shoulder-length brown hair, not one strand out of place, to her casual outfit, pressed jeans and a crisp white t-shirt. "Hi, I'm Sarah," she said, extending her hand. Her grip was firm but not aggressive, her smile polite, but not overly friendly. "I think we're going to get along great." Something about the way she said it made me uneasy, but I brushed it off as first-day nerves. We spent that afternoon unpacking and setting up our sides of the room. While my side slowly descended into organized chaos, photos taped to the wall, books stacked on my desk, fairy lights strung above my bed, Sarah's side remained minimalist. Everything had its place. Her books were arranged by height, her clothes color-coded in the closet, her desk perfectly symmetrical with her laptop centered to the millimeter. The first red flag appeared during our floor meeting that night. Our RA asked everyone to share their major and hometown. When it was Sarah's turn, she said, "Pre-med, just like Emma." And I'm from Chicago, though I spent some time in Ann Arbor. I hadn't told her I was pre-med. I hadn't told her anything about myself. That night, I lay awake, listening to Sarah breathe. Her rhythm matched mine exactly. When I shifted, she shifted. When I coughed, she coughed. It could have been coincidence, but something felt wrong. The next few weeks established our routine. Sarah was always awake when I woke up, no matter what time it was. She went to the dining hall at the exact same times every day, ordered the exact same meals. She did laundry every Tuesday at 7 p.m., folding each item with surgical precision. Her notebooks were filled with perfect handwriting, each letter identical to the last. I started noticing other things too. She would mimic my mannerisms, the way I tucked my hair behind my ear, how I chewed on my pen cap while studying, even my nervous habit of cracking my knuckles before exams. When I got a new pair of shoes, she bought the same ones the next day. When I mentioned liking a band, suddenly their posters appeared on her wall. The changes to my belongings started small. A pencil turned around in my cup. A textbook rotated 180 degrees. My shower caddy rearranged to mirror hers. When I confronted her, she would tilt her head slightly, always exactly 15 degrees, and say, "I haven't touched your things. Are you feeling okay, Emma? You seem stressed." I started taking photos of my side of the room before leaving each day. The changes were subtle but undeniable. My bed would be made with hospital corners, just like hers. My books would be arranged by height. My clothes would be color-coded. It was like my space was slowly transforming to match hers, or maybe she was transforming my space to match me. One night, I woke up at 3 a.m. to find her standing between our beds, staring at me. She was perfectly still, barely breathing. "Go back to sleep," she whispered, but it wasn't her voice. It was mine. Exactly mine, down to the slight rasp I get when I'm tired. I started spending more time in the library, in friends' rooms, anywhere but my own. But Sarah was always there when I returned, sitting at her desk, studying. Always studying. I never saw her in classes, though she claimed to have the same schedule as me. None of my classmates seemed to know who she was. The hairbrush incident happened a week before Thanksgiving. I'd gone to bed early, exhausted from midterms. Something woke me, a slight weight on my pillow. When I opened my eyes, my brush was there, positioned exactly parallel to the edge of the pillow. Every strand of hair had been removed from it, and it smelled faintly of bleach. "I cleaned it for you," Sarah said from her bed. "Your hair was tangled with mine. We can't have that, can we? Not when everything else is so perfect." I didn't sleep for the next 3 days. I watched her instead, pretending to be asleep. She would sit at her desk for hours, writing in a notebook. Sometimes she would stand and practice my walk, my gestures, my expressions in the mirror. She was getting better at being me than I was. When Thanksgiving break came, I told her I wouldn't be back until Sunday night. It was the first lie I'd told her. My parents were worried. I'd lost weight, wasn't sleeping, jumped at every noise. They suggested I come home early, and I agreed. That's how I ended up back at Thompson Hall on Saturday afternoon. The scene I walked in on still haunts me. Sarah wasn't just wearing my clothes, she was wearing my identity. She had dyed and styled her hair exactly like mine. She was sitting exactly how I sit, her legs crossed the same way, her head tilted at my usual angle. She was writing in what I thought was my journal, but when I looked closer, I realized it was a perfect copy. She had recreated every entry, every doodle, but the words were slightly different. In her version, she was the original. I was the copy. The photos on her wall tracked everything. My daily routes across campus, my study spots in the library, my favorite table in the dining hall, close-ups of my hands holding pens, my eyes while reading, my mouth while speaking. Notes documented every detail of my existence. What time I brushed my teeth, how many times I chewed each bite of food, which songs I hummed while studying. But the most terrifying part was the calendar on her desk. It showed a countdown, marked in red. The final day was circled multiple times, with one word written in my handwriting: integration. When she turned to face me, her smile was perfect. My smile, practiced to perfection. "We knew you'd come back early," she said in my voice. "You always check on your roommates. It's what got the others caught." I ran. Through the halls, down the stairs, into the security office. They called the police, who searched our room. But by the time they arrived, everything was gone. The photos, the notebooks, the calendar. Sarah's side of the room was completely empty, like no one had ever lived there. The investigation revealed disturbing details. The real Sarah Matthews had deferred her acceptance due to a medical condition. She had disappeared 3 months before classes started. Her parents reported receiving emails from her, saying she was safe and happy, but the emails were traced to a library computer on campus. They found similar cases at other universities. Girls whose roommates slowly began to mirror them, then disappeared, only to have the cycle repeat somewhere else. But they never found Sarah, if that was even her name. Sometimes I see her on campus, a glimpse of someone wearing my old favorite sweater or using my distinctive laugh. But it's never just one person. It's different girls in different places, all carrying small pieces of me, as if she's distributed my identity among them, creating an army of almost Emmas. I live off campus now, alone. I've changed my hair, my clothes, my habits. But sometimes, when I look in the mirror, I catch myself checking to make sure my movements are still my own. And sometimes, late at night, I wonder how many other girls are out there, slowly being erased and rewritten by the perfect roommate. I needed the money. That's what I keep telling myself. That's why I took the job as a night desk attendant at Bowles Hall, one of Berkeley's oldest dormitories. The position paid $2 above minimum wage, and the quiet hours would give me time to study for my engineering courses. At least, that's what I thought. Bowles Hall wasn't just old, it was ancient by California standards. Built in 1929, it was Berkeley's first residential college, styled after the medieval Gothic buildings of Oxford and Cambridge. During the day, its stone walls and wooden accents felt scholarly, prestigious. But at night, when shadows crept across its gargoyles and the fog rolled in from the bay, it transformed into something else entirely. My training was brief. Marcus, the senior night attendant, walked me through the basics during my first evening shift. Check IDs after midnight, log any incidents, monitor the security cameras, and whatever you do, don't go up to the 4th floor between 3 and 4 a.m. I laughed, thinking he was joking. He didn't laugh back. "Just trust me on this one," he said, his face serious. "And if you see anything weird on the cameras, don't report it." The last 3 attendants who did got fired for causing unnecessary concern. The first few weeks were uneventful. I worked Sunday through Thursday, midnight to 6 a.m. Most nights, I'd only have to deal with the occasional drunk freshman who'd forgotten their key card or pizza delivery drivers trying to sneak past security. The old building made plenty of noise, creaking floors, groaning pipes, windows rattling in the wind, but I got used to it. Then I started noticing the glitch. It always happened at exactly 3:17 a.m. The security feed from the 4th floor would static out for exactly 1 second. Just a brief interruption, a flicker of snow on the screen, then back to normal. At first, I thought it was just an equipment issue. The building's electrical system was as old as the structure itself, with decades of patchwork repairs. I mentioned it to Marcus during our shift change one morning. His face went pale. "You've been watching the 4th floor feed?" "Yeah, why?" He glanced around, then lowered his voice. "Look up the Bowles Hall fire of 1923. I spent my free time that day in the university library, digging through old newspapers on microfilm. The fire had started on the 4th floor, back when the building was 8 stories tall. 14 students died, trapped in their rooms. The official report blamed faulty wiring, but the witness accounts told a different story. Students reported seeing strange lights in the 4th floor windows weeks before the fire. Some claimed to hear singing late at night, though the rooms were supposed to be empty for renovations. The night watchman, James Sullivan, disappeared during his shift. The last entry in his logbook, written at 3:17 a.m., read, "The numbers are wrong. They're all wrong." When they rebuilt Bowles Hall in 1929, they only went up to 4 floors. The university claimed it was for structural reasons, but rumors persisted about strange occurrences in the 4th floor rooms. Students would wake up to find their belongings rearranged. Room numbers would appear to change in the middle of the night. And every year, on the anniversary of the fire, someone would report seeing a figure in an old-style watchman's uniform, walking the halls at 3:17 a.m. I became obsessed with the glitch. I started recording the security feed, watching it frame by frame. In the static, if you looked closely, you could sometimes see shapes, suggestions of a different hallway with different room numbers. Once, I swore I saw a figure in the snow, walking with a lantern. That's when I decided to investigate. On a quiet Tuesday night in October, I waited until 3:15 a.m. The building was silent except for the usual creaks and groans. I grabbed my flashlight and radio, standard equipment for night staff, and headed for the stairs. The elevator had been broken for weeks, which wasn't unusual. Maintenance was always behind in Bowles Hall. The stairwell was cold, colder than it should have been, even with the aging heating system. My footsteps echoed strangely, as if the space was larger than it appeared. I counted the floors as I climbed. 1, 2, 3. The door to the 4th floor was heavy, its hinges protesting as I pushed it open. The hallway looked normal at first. Same worn carpet, same wooden doors with brass number plates, same flickering fluorescent lights that the maintenance team could never quite fix. I checked my phone, 3:16 a.m. The temperature dropped suddenly, my breath visible in the air. The lights flickered once, twice, and then the hallway changed. The carpet was gone, replaced by hardwood floors, dark with age. The doors were different, taller, made of heavier wood, with brass number plates that showed impossible numbers. Where 401 had been, I now saw 731. Room 402 had become 856. The hallway itself seemed longer, stretching far beyond where the building's exterior should be. That's when I heard the footsteps behind me and the soft scrape of metal on wood. A voice spoke close to my ear. "You're not supposed to be here. This isn't your floor anymore." I turned, slowly. A man stood there, dressed in an old-fashioned watchman's uniform. He held a lantern in one hand, its light casting strange shadows on his face. But his face, where his face should have been, was just more shadows, swirling and shifting like smoke. "The numbers are wrong," he said, his voice echoing as if from a great distance. "They've always been wrong. Can't you see? This floor doesn't belong here. It belongs then." I ran. The hallway seemed to stretch and distort around me, the impossible room numbers blurring as I passed. I could hear him behind me, his footsteps echoing at the same tempo as the flickering lights. When I reached the stairwell door, I practically fell through it. I didn't stop running until I reached the security desk. The monitors showed the 4th floor, normal as ever. But when I played back the security footage later, what I saw made my blood run cold. The video showed me walking down the normal hallway, then standing perfectly still for exactly 1 minute. At 3:17 a.m., the feed glitched. When it cleared, I was running, but the timestamp showed 3:18 a.m. That 1 minute, the minute when I saw the changed hallway and the watchman, was missing from the tape. I submitted my resignation the next morning. As I was leaving, I passed the building manager's office. There was a photo on the wall, dated 1923, showing Bowles Hall in its original 8-story glory. Next to it was a framed newspaper article about the fire with a photo of the night watchman who disappeared. James Sullivan looked exactly like me. I did more research after that, digging deeper into the university archives. I found records of other night attendants who had quit suddenly, all after witnessing strange events on the 4th floor. Many of them shared an odd similarity. They looked like they could have been related to James Sullivan, like me. But here's the detail that keeps me awake at night. According to the records, James Sullivan had no family, no children, no siblings, no living relatives at all. Yet every few years, someone who looks just like him takes the night shift at Bowles Hall, and every time, they discover the truth about the 4th floor. I don't work night shifts anymore. I changed my major to avoid evening classes. But sometimes, around 3:17 a.m., I wake up to find my room cold, with the smell of smoke in the air. And in my mirror, just for a moment, I see a man in a watchman's uniform holding a lantern, waiting to warn the next person about the numbers that are wrong. Living alone in college was supposed to be a luxury. After 2 years of dealing with roommates in NYU's crowded dorms, I'd finally secured a single room in Lipton Hall. It wasn't anything special, just a converted double with a private bathroom, but it was mine. No one else's clothes on the floor, no one else's alarm going off at weird hours, no one else's eyes watching me sleep. At least, that's what I thought. The package room was in the basement, a fluorescent lit space that always smelled like cardboard and dust. Students worked there in 2-hour shifts, checking IDs and logging deliveries in a massive binder. I was there at least twice a week, usually picking up textbooks or care packages from my mom. That Friday in February started normally enough. The email notification came during my morning class. Package ready for pickup in Lipton Hall basement. I didn't remember ordering anything, but that wasn't unusual. My parents liked to send surprise care packages, especially during midterms. When I got to the package room, something felt off. Maya, the student worker who usually handled the afternoon shift, looked uncomfortable when I showed her my ID. "This is weird," she said, chewing her lip. "The system says this was delivered last week, but none of us remember seeing it. Brian found it this morning behind some old boxes. It doesn't have any courier markings, no UPS, no FEDEX, nothing." The package was small, wrapped in brown paper that looked aged, like it had been sitting in someone's attic for years. The twine holding it together was frayed and discolored. My name and room number were written in spidery black ink, the letters precise but somehow unsettling, as if each one had been drawn with painstaking care. "Do you want to open it here?" Maya asked. Something in her voice suggested she thought I should. "No, it's fine," I said, though it wasn't. "Probably just something from my aunt. She's kind of eccentric." The elevator was broken again, so I took the stairs to the 7th floor. The package felt warm in my hands, despite the February chill. When I shifted it, something inside moved, making a soft scratching sound. The smell hit me as soon as I entered my room, sweet but wrong, like flowers left too long in stagnant water. It seemed to be coming from the package, though the paper wrapper showed no signs of dampness. I set it on my desk and grabbed my phone, taking a picture before I opened it. Something told me I should document this. The twine stuck to my fingers as I untied it, leaving a residue that felt like honey, but looked clear under my desk lamp. Inside was a shoebox, the kind expensive boots come in. The cardboard was water-stained and soft, bulging slightly in places. When I lifted the lid, the smell intensified, and I found myself staring at the backs of dozens of Polaroid photographs, their white borders yellowed with age. My hands were shaking as I picked up the first photo. The image was dark, grainy, but I recognized my room, my bed with its blue Target comforter, my posters on the wall, me asleep on my side. The timestamp in the corner read, February 10th, 2025, 3 nights ago. But that wasn't what made my heart stop. It was the figure standing over my bed, tall, impossibly tall, its head out of frame, its arms unnaturally long. The fingers stretched toward my sleeping form were too thin, too jointed, like spider's legs. I dropped the photo and grabbed another, and another. Each one showed the same scene from slightly different angles. Me sleeping, the figure watching. Some photos were closer, showing details I didn't want to see. The texture of its skin like dried bark, the way its joints bent backward, the faint glow where its eyes should be. The dates went back weeks, to the start of the semester. In the earlier photos, the figure was farther from my bed, lurking in corners. As the dates progressed, it got closer. In the most recent ones, its fingers were almost touching my face. That's when I noticed the scratches on my ceiling. They formed a pattern, radiating out from the center of the room like a web. In the newest photos, you could see them being carved, one line at a time, while I slept below. I had noticed some marks before, but assumed they were old water damage. My phone buzzed, another package notification. Same description as the first. I deleted it without reading the whole message. I spent that night in my friend Rachel's room, claiming a pipe had burst in my ceiling. The next morning, I went to campus security and asked to see the package room footage from the past week. The student working there was reluctant, but eventually agreed. We watched the tape from the day the first package was logged. At 3:17 a.m., the screen went dark for exactly 1 second. When the image returned, the package was there, placed perfectly centered on the middle shelf. No one had entered or left the room. I never went back to that room. I left everything, clothes, books, laptop, and crashed on Rachel's couch until housing found me a new placement. They sent maintenance to check my old room after other students complained about strange noises at night. The workers found deep scratches in the walls behind my posters and strange stains on the ceiling that leaked through multiple coats of paint. The girl who moved in after me lasted 2 weeks. She reported waking up with scratches on her arms, though her doors and windows were locked. The next resident made it 3 days before requesting a transfer, babbling about something watching her from the corners. They closed the room after that, claiming it needed structural repairs. But sometimes, late at night, people see lights through the window. And every few weeks, a new student gets a package notification, only to find a small box wrapped in brown paper, tied with sticky twine, carrying the scent of dead flowers. I live off campus now, in a bright apartment with lots of windows. I've installed cameras, motion sensors, everything a paranoid college student can afford, but I still get package notifications. They come at random times, always from different email addresses that don't exist when you try to reply. The last one arrived yesterday. The subject line was different this time. Your collection is almost complete. I haven't slept since. Sometimes, when I'm lying in bed at night, I hear something scratching at my ceiling. The sound moves in familiar patterns, like something is trying to recreate the web of marks from my old dorm room. I keep my eyes closed, pretending to sleep. But sometimes, just sometimes, I feel something cold and sticky drip onto my forehead. And I wonder, am I in someone else's collection now?